Chad and I have our 360 top 10 quarterbacks across the NFL as we see the landscape currently. Yeah. And there are a few on the outside looking in that we considered heavily.
We'll get to I think we initially, Hutton, when we started discussing this, we had a list of 14. Mm-hmm. We had to whittle that list of 14 that were under consideration for the top 10 down to those 10. Also, to be very clear, when someone doesn't see a legendary, possibly greatest of all time quarterback at number 1, this is our OutKick 360 list of current quarterbacks in their current condition. Okay? So there may be a 45-year-old that we acknowledge has had the greatest career of any quarterback in NFL history that may not be number 1. If we're ranking what they've done over the course of their career, the list would look very different. We are looking at closing in on the end of the 2022 season, going into 2023, top 10 quarterbacks in the NFL. Was that clear enough, Hutton?
Yes.
Did I make myself perfectly clear?
We'll clear up any debate right here on the number 10 quarterback. Our just making the top 10, Dak Prescott of the Dallas Cowboys in at number 10 because, Chad, he is good enough to get you to the playoffs. Dak will be back in the postseason for Dallas. He's just not good enough to win it all. Good, not great, but plenty of arm talent. He's going to throw picks. He makes up for it with what they do through the run and then how he can also catch fire. He's not, to me, as inconsistent as Jameis Winston. There is a Winston quality, or not something you would brag about, quality there that holds him back for me.
He likes crab legs?
No, he just throws 10 picks one week and 10 touchdowns the next, and it's just, he probably likes crab legs too. I don't know if he would steal them.
I mean, with the butter, it's always delicious.
I don't know if he would steal them and stand on the table while doing things. But yeah, I mean, he was downright terrible in the NFC divisional round against San Francisco, and that's recency bias. He was excellent against Tampa Bay. But that in a nutshell, that's Dak Prescott. And the question is, what can they do to get him past where he is right now? I do think there's another level there. I just don't think the coaches are going to get it out of him.
Dak Prescott is what I would describe as a great fantasy football quarterback. He's going to get you some rushing touchdowns. He's good through the air. He's going to get you great stats. But if I'm looking at this list, I'm thinking the top 5 as the coveted title of elite.
Yes.
Who are the elite quarterbacks in NFL? I really think it's probably the top 4 on our list. But top 5, you could argue, Dak Prescott is not elite. Dak Prescott is not a guy that I'm picking to win a Super Bowl anytime soon. He showed that again with his performance against the 49ers. For that reason, he's 10th on our list. But again, he's a great option for your fantasy football team. That's how I view Dak Prescott right now. And being in the top 10, he's no slouch, clearly, but not elite status.
Great for fantasy football, Dak Prescott. In at number 9, and not this past year, a great fantasy football player, Tom Brady. 45-year-old Tom Brady, our 9th best QB as of right now in the NFL. Chad, he's still doing Tom Brady things. He still has a lot left in the tank, believe it or not.
He's throwing a lot. He's passing a lot.
He's passing more than any quarterback in the NFL the past 2 years. He's reset his own record for pass attempts and completions in a season this past year in Tampa. He needs a run game and an offensive line, but he is still a quarterback that can win another Super Bowl. The GOAT can go get another championship ring in the right spot, and he's in the top 10 because I would take him over a number of QBs, possibly even if you're saying for 1 year with the setting perfect, I would take him over some of the quarterbacks we're going to have ranked ahead of him right now. But just on talent and what we see immediately in our, not in our rearview mirror, right in front of us in the headlights, Brady comes in at number 9 for us.
This will be the most divisive name and ranking on our list, and I don't think it's going to be – I think it's going to be controversial on both sides in that there's going to be a number of people who say, how can you have Brady ranked so low? And there's going to be plenty of people who say, how can you have this 45-year-old guy who's not that great anymore, that just dinks and dunks the whole game, how can you have him in the top 10 of the list? And the answer to that question is, it's because it's our list. That's how. That's how he's 9th. And you can debate amongst yourselves, but that's where he will lie on our list at number 9. Number 8, Hutton.
Trevor Lawrence. And I think that people will think that this is way too high for the Jacksonville quarterback that caught fire at the end of the season with Doug Peterson. I'm factoring in his coach here and who he's paired with, and how, he led his team through some really miserable stretches with Urban Meyer. I think he was more vocal behind the scenes than what we would have originally thought. And then the way he came out in the second half against the Chargers when they were getting boat raced, and it was because of his poor play. For him to turn things around in the middle of a game wins the confidence over for me, for his team, for the locker room, for the organization, for Trevor Lawrence. The Titans had a chance to negate any momentum he could possibly take after getting that postseason experience. And now we see the Trevor Lawrence career really begin to take off because he has a postseason win under his belt, and he went to Arrowhead and played against Mahomes for the divisional round. I like the talent around him, and I like the overall QB. I would take him in the top 10, and I would have done that for the last, 3 months. I would have him as a top 10 QB right now.
And I'm looking at this less as talent around him or coach or set up in Jacksonville, and more as Trevor Lawrence was the most surefire prospect since Andrew Luck came out into the draft. When he was drafted number 1 overall, there was no debate about who was going number 1. It was Trevor Lawrence, and he was going to Jacksonville. He has now shown enough in that snapshot of this season where they got hot, and I've seen enough of that ability and that promise in him to put him squarely inside the top 10. That's really simple for me, but I saw enough of his delivery on that promise of him as a top prospect to put him in the top 10 this year, and I think it's only going to get better for Trevor Lawrence. Unfortunate for the rest of the AFC South, but he's only going to get better.
And you're going to see this is a AFC-heavy list that we've put together.
Which is no surprise.
Right, yeah. So, Lawrence, for you, do you think he has that next gear that gets him above, Justin Herbert if we were to do this a year later?
I will, when we get into our top 5, and we
I think everyone knows that Herbert's in a top position.
I'm going to tell you exactly who he's eventually going to replace, who I believe he's going to replace in that top 5. So I don't want to spoil it just yet, Hutton. Herbert's a great comparison. Maybe it's him. But when we get into that top 5, I think there's a clear answer to who Trevor Lawrence could take over that spot eventually and move into the top 5.
Coming in at number 7, a player that took over the league, has an MVP under his belt. He just needs to stay healthy and negotiate a contract. Lamar Jackson in at number 7 for our 360 top 10 NFL quarterbacks. Look, talent, he's got it. And there's a reason why the Baltimore Ravens are refusing to just say, you know what, we're tired of negotiating. We're going to explore all options. We're non-committal. No, it's the opposite. They want him involved in their offensive coordinator search. They want him to have a say over certain personnel decisions because the offense is built around him. And when he is healthy, he is as dynamic of a player, not just a quarterback, but a player across the league. He can take over a game single-handedly, and the dual threat ability of Lamar Jackson puts him just outside the top 5 for us.
And I think if the availability question wasn't a question, he would probably scrape the end of that top 5.
Yeah.
On my list, maybe yours too.
I agree.
But if we came to a consensus, the biggest problem with him right now is that he's missed back-to-back Decembers and Januaries as a player. And that's not good enough, and it's bad timing for him now that he's due his big money contract, that's the case going into this offseason. But that's really the biggest question mark with me right now, Lamar Jackson. When healthy, he is a one-of-a-kind weapon offensively for the Ravens and really for any team he played on. He's that good.
Doesn't make the trip to Cincy in Week 18, and then immediately his players are there on the soapbox telling everyone that'll listen, yeah, we want him back. He needs to be the starter. They need to get him under contract. There's no controversy about whose team it is in Baltimore. It's Lamar Jackson's. Just outside the top 5 for us, in at number 6, Aaron Rodgers. I believe him when he says, hey, there's a spot out there for me where I'm the MVP again next year. He's confident he's going to pick a spot. Maybe it's Green Bay, maybe it's not, where he is MVP caliber yet again, and he believes he can win it for the 3rd time in 4 years.
So we're looking at quarterbacks right now and not career. Some might say, well, he was terrible this last year, so what are you talking about? One bad year and one down year is not enough to me to take away from back-to-back MVPs for Aaron Rodgers. I believe Aaron Rodgers is due his Brady change moment. Brady looked dead in New England with those receivers, with that protection. That final game against the Titans in New England, where his final pass was an interception thrown to Logan Ryan, that guy looked like he was seeing ghosts during games. He was getting rid of it quick and throwing it away, throwing it at the feet, playing pepper with receivers the entire time. Looked like he was done. And guess what happened? He went to Tampa, scenery, new supporting cast. What'd he do? He was great. They won a Super Bowl. I think Aaron Rodgers is due that moment. I think if he gets traded to the right spot, he's right back in the top 5. He's on the edge of it right now on our list at number 6, but he's one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL a year from now if given the right opportunity and the right supporting cast. That's why Aaron Rodgers is at number 6 on our list.
Well, think about him being paired with Devontae Adams again. Yeah, and then add in Darren Waller, and just hypothetically
Josh Jacobs, maybe.
Yeah, say that they bring Josh Jacobs back on a contract, and if they don't, they can still run the football in Vegas. And he's paired with McDaniels, who is going to play a similar and call a similar style offense to what Rodgers is going to want. And a talented defense that can rush the passer and get the ball back for you.
I'm telling you,
it's a very good fit.
The right spot. It could be the Raiders, could be the Jets, wherever that spot is and that fit for Aaron Rodgers. I think he's right back to being one of the very best, if not the best, in the NFL. All
right, so let's recap our bottom 5 and our top 10, 6 through 10. Aaron Rodgers, Lamar Jackson, Trevor Lawrence, Tom Brady, Dak Prescott. And our OutKick 360 top 10 quarterbacks. There's your 6 through 10. Chad, in at number 5, Justin Herbert of the Los Angeles Chargers. If we did a full redraft last offseason, I'm pretty sure I would draft Justin Herbert number 1 overall in the league based on overall talent and where I think his trajectory is going. I'm not so certain that the current staff in place is going to get him to that level. But, man, he on third down and bailing them out, he's very good, extremely tough. He's got to be paired with an offensive-minded coach, and they're looking for their coordinator. He's got to be paired with that OC that just fits exactly who he is. And I haven't seen that so far with the Chargers, top to bottom.
There's nothing not to like about his ability. The size, the running ability, he's a good scrambler. The arm strength, the accuracy, everything about him you like. The one thing you don't like is his organization and his team with the Chargers. That's the only thing holding him back, I think, right now to being a top 3 guy in the league. But he's elite. Now we've entered elite territory of top 5 guys in the league, and Justin Herbert's right on the edge
He's there.
of elite status.
So the next group, here's a guy that had a prove-it year. And, man, did they add some talent around him on offense and defense to put him in a top 5 and put him in an MVP conversation? Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts, Chad, can do it all. And he has been consistent. He's been a leader, both on the field and off. The way he conducts himself after massive performances and losses at a podium, he looks like an MVP type player, talks like an MVP type player, and has the chance to be a Super Bowl champion in a year where there were plenty of doubters.
Now that we've got to number 4 on the list, Hutton, these are the 2 guys, Hurts, Herbert, that I believe Trevor Lawrence can supplant and get into that top 5 conversation. I think either one of them, Lawrence has the ability to be better than those guys and jump into that mix. Right now we've got him at 8. I think he could be as good as 4th right now in his prime with these 2 guys moving out. Jalen Hurts just gets a huge bump for where we are right now with him hosting an NFC Championship game and his supporting cast, the offense that he runs. But I've seen enough. I know it's a small sample size, but he was not really the problem even when they didn't have a great supporting cast. And now that he's got a team around him, he looks terrific. And he can do it all. We said with Herbert, the guy, there's nothing not to like. Jalen Hurts, I'll say the same thing. The guy can run. The guy can throw with power and strength. He can throw for accuracy. I like everything about him. And when you put him with Devontae Smith and Dallas Goedert and A.J. Brown and that offense and the running game support that he has, I mean, dare I say he could be too low on this list. And there may be someone you could knock out of the top 3. But we got to see the top 3 first.
Well, but he's also got Nick Sirianni saying, he's sitting there going, I shouldn't say this, but I'm going to. He's Michael Jordan for us. He's got his head coach saying he's MJ. Not just the facilitator, but the dude. And that's high praise. And that's also like putting it on the quarterback to go back it up again. And the guy has. Their losses, all but one, came whenever he wasn't able to play. And it's massive that he's not on the injury report. Good luck to any defense, even the best in the league, when facing them. Number 3 on the list, Josh Allen. So close, yet it feels so far away in many ways. You know, they had the shootout a year ago in Kansas City, which was a classic. They lose the coin toss, so Josh Allen didn't have the ball, and Mahomes wins. And this year, everything that's gone on through Buffalo, they were crowned the Super Bowl champs in the preseason and did everything possible except beat the hottest team in the NFL in the Cincinnati Bengals on a day where they had home field advantage and on a day where the conditions are something they brag about, not the opposite. And it made a huge effect on the overall play of that offense. Allen had a bad day, but even whenever he is inconsistent in throwing interceptions, he bails them out time and time again. The guy is clutch. He makes some of the most spectacular plays in the league. Josh Allen, number 3 on our list of top 10 QBs in the NFL.
Look at that picture that we had of Josh Allen. I'm thinking, are his elbows ever going to not bleed again? I feel like for the last month and a half, every time I see him, he's got like the Kurt Schilling bloody sock, but it's the bloody undershirt of his jersey on both elbows are just constantly bleeding. He took a hit this postseason. I mean, there's no way around it. I think he was in debate all year to be the top guy or the number 2 guy. I think he fell to number 3 because of a disappointing performance. After his performance in Kansas City a year ago in a loss in the divisional round, we were thinking this guy might be the best quarterback in the NFL right now with how he played in that game in a loss.
He still could be easily.
Still could be. And he's still great. And that's why he's 3rd on the list. He's elite. Don't get us wrong. He's definitely elite. But he's number 3, not number 2 or 1.
Well, and it also with Allen, like, there's no doubt in my mind the guy's going to win a Super Bowl. He's going to win a Super Bowl in his career with the talent that he has and the leadership qualities.
Is it going to happen in Buffalo?
Maybe, maybe not. But, I mean, this is a guy that, I mean, to reach this type level, expectations are he's hoisting the Lombardi Trophy at some point in his career. And I don't doubt that one bit. Just like I don't doubt what's going down through the top 2 on our list. One guy has, one guy hasn't. And, Chad, this is where we anoint the new guy because Patrick Mahomes is number 2 on our list for the top 10 NFL quarterbacks right now. Mahomes is excellent. He's done nothing but show up time and time again. Banged up, bruised up, doesn't matter. Trade away Tyreek Hill, doesn't matter. He's throwing for 5,000 yards, 42 touchdown passes, and he's thrown for 5,000 for the second time in his career. Only Drew Brees and Tom Brady have done that previously. Guy's a Hall of Fame player. And we just see a passing of the torch with another guy that's extremely confident, cocky, brash, and cool. And that's why Mahomes is number 2 for us.
Yeah, Mahomes has hosted 5 straight AFC Championship games. So you're right. He has done nothing but great things in Kansas City and throughout his career. But there's a new king in town.
It's Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow, number 1 for us in the NFL quarterback rankings. Leadership qualities, the way he says something and you believe it, where it's like the window's always open here as long as I'm the quarterback. He's right. The guy refuses to lose and go down. And for whatever reason, there are ways he can pick apart a comment to make it a chip on his shoulder. His overall story of Ohio State to then LSU with Ed Orgeron, the iconic photo of the cigar in the locker room, getting drafted by Cincinnati, going back to Ohio where there was talk even in the draft, should this guy pull an Eli Manning and demand not to go to the Bengals because that's where careers go to die? No, he embraced it, and they embraced him, the organization. They didn't draft offensive line immediately. They went and got the wide receiver that he played with Jamar Chase. Then he took a ton of sacks because they went with the wide receiver route instead of protecting him up front. Now they've done that, and you're seeing him flourish because they can beat you in multiple ways. He's already had the ACL. He came off of that, made it to the Super Bowl. Now it's time to go win one. Joe Burrow, top quarterback in the NFL.
He is Baker Mayfield with a lot more talent that people actually like around him, because reports are in Cleveland that not everyone got along with Baker Mayfield. I've never heard a bad word from a teammate about Joe Burrow. They love the dude. They love how cocky he is. They love his swagger. And more than anything else, they love his ability. And full rights for people to come back on Monday if he lays an egg in Kansas City and looks terrible and Patrick Mahomes beats him on one leg, to say, you guys got it wrong. Mahomes is 1 and number 2. But I am so confident that Joe Burrow is not going to lay an egg in this game because of who he is in the biggest moments. He's the most clutch quarterback in the NFL, bar none. And I think he's going to go out. Cincinnati may lose, but it's not going to be because of Joe Burrow. He's going to play great in this game. I'm that confident in that happening, and that's why I'm very confident with our ranking of him at number 1.
And I said last week, going into the weekend, on Monday, the storyline we're talking about, Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals. Because the headlines on Monday this past week were Cincinnati's put everyone on notice. Burrow did that a year ago with what he did throughout the postseason. And sometimes he can put up some gaudy numbers, but the guy can go blow for blow in a dogfight with anyone. And he can be hobbled too and play through it. I respect him. I think the NFL does. And look, I think he wins a Super Bowl this year. And pretty much everyone will follow this list at that point, Chad.
Yep. I think we will be rewarded, Hutton, for the week of the conference championship games of going ahead and anointing Joe Burrow number 1, because he is going to prove us to be prophetic by the end of the Super Bowl when the Bengals win it.
Number 10, Dak Prescott. At 9, Tom Brady. Trevor Lawrence in at number 8, followed by Lamar Jackson and Aaron Rodgers. Those are 6 through 10. Your top 5, Justin Herbert, Jalen Hurts, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, and Joe Burrow. We left some names off the list. Who should we have included? You can hit us up there at OutKick 360.